Hey YouTube, it's Maryland Girl. I am coming to you today to talk about the news of Bill Cosby being released from prison. His conviction has been overturned and he is free.
Good day. We're coming back on the air with more breaking news about Bill Cosby. The comedian was just released from prison after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned the 83-year-old actor's sex assault conviction. Cosby served more than 2 years of a 3 to 10-year sentence, convicted of drugging and molesting Temple University employee Andrea Constant. NBC Justice correspondent Pete Williams joins us. Pete, what can you tell us about the legal reasoning that led to this decision?
Well, the court says the facts are very straightforward, that when the victim initially came forward, the district attorney decided not to file charges, that there were too many problems with the evidence, and that he publicly made a statement that he would not pursue these charges, and that he did so in order to free up the possibility that Cosby could be forced to testify in a civil trial that she filed against him later, and that he could not in that civil trial then invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination because he was told by the district attorney and believed the advice of his own lawyers that anything he said in the civil trial could not be used against him in the criminal trial if the state tried it again. So he did testify, he did incriminate himself, he said things that were incriminating in the civil trial, and then the district, the state of Pennsylvania came back and charged him with the crime. What the Supreme Court said today is, you can't do that. You made him, you gave him a reason to believe that he could testify at the civil trial without putting himself in jeopardy of the criminal prosecution. The Pennsylvania court said, our sense of fair play and decency compels us to believe that the district attorney had to stand by the decision that was made by a predecessor in the office not to charge. So that's the reasoning of the court. The outcome, Lester, is that he cannot be tried again on these charges. That means that the woman at the center of this case, she can't be the subject of another criminal prosecution. This one is over.
Hey YouTube, it's Maryland Girl. I am coming to you today to talk about the news of Bill Cosby being released from prison. His conviction has been overturned and he is free. He was supposed to be in prison for 3 to 10 years, and people thought, well, the man's in his 80s. He's supposedly, you can't see me, but I've got air quotes. He's supposedly blind. He's not in good condition. It's very likely that giving him a 10-year sentence is a life sentence. He's gonna, spend the rest of his days in prison. But that is not the case. As of today, the man is out free, and there are mixed reactions. Through this whole time, he still had his fans, his supporters, of which I was at one time. I won't say one time, for most of my life, I was a big Bill Cosby fan. But I guess around 2014, 2015, along with millions of other people, I stopped being a fan. And that was really hard for me. Bill Cosby was my favorite comedian. It was Bill Cosby and Sinbad. The two of them were my favorite comedians, and I like them because they were clean comedians. I could listen to them and not have to worry about them, talking about a lot of raunchy stuff, cursing every other word. But they were still funny. They had talent. They could make you laugh without having to get, gritty. And, there's not a lot of comedians out there that are like that. And I liked that about Bill Cosby. I liked that he was what I thought was an example of, a decent person, a decent human being in our community. I loved that, growing up, through my childhood, he was, encouraging people to go to college, get their degrees because it would help them have a better life and be successful. I, I don't want to say I looked up to him, because people would be like, yelling at me over hero worship and, we shouldn't put celebrities on a pedestal. That's what's wrong with people today. I don't think that there's anything wrong with recognizing when there are decent members in your community that are doing good things for the community. And Bill Cosby did a lot of good things, for the Black community with education, you know. And I felt like he was one of those people that was always encouraging, especially the Black community, us, that we could do better, that we could be more. And I always saw him as, like a family man, even though the Cosby Show was a fictional show, but it was still based on his own comedy, his own life and his family and his children. So even though that show is fictional, he was pulling from his own experiences and what happened in his life. Those are things that happened in the show. Just like Everybody Loves Raymond. That stuff is based on Ray Romano's, real life, even though the show is fictional. So, people calling him America's dad. I never called him that, but I get why, why people called him that. So it was really, really hard for me to go from being a huge Bill Cosby fan who thought, he was just one of the best Black men in the community and I just love Bill Cosby to, where I am now thinking that he is one of the worst. I mean, he's not like a serial killer or anything. That would be like the ultimate worst. But how for him to go from, like, in my mind, being America's dad, you know, um, to being this man, in prison, serving a sentence for, what was it? A sexual assault, yeah, that was just really hard for me. Um, he still has his fans, and for a long time, I was one of those people. When they first, I won't say when they first started coming out with these allegations, but when it really picked up, around 2014, 2015, I was one of those people that I didn't believe the women. I didn't believe their accusations, um, because I'm not one of those people who, when they say believe all women, I'm not one of those people. I don't believe all women. I believe people based on who I think seems credible. And I know that the vast majority of women who come forward and accuse someone of sexual assault or, some crime like that, rape, the vast majority of them are telling the truth. I know that. But there have been cases where there have been women who were in consensual relationships with a man, and then when they got caught, then they want to say, oh, this person raped me or this person did something to me. Or a man that had no type of sexual relationship with them at all, they just accuse this person of raping them, and they just ruin someone's life, or someone gets killed over it. Someone has to spend the rest of their life in prison. And so I'm just not in support of the whole, believe all women narrative. So I'm not going to tell you what my political beliefs are, but I will tell you that over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, you could go on TV on any given day and see women on TV representing our country lying on TV, lying through their teeth, knowing that they're lying. And so I know that women lie. I know that we don't always tell the truth. There are some women, if you pay them the right amount of money, they will tell lies all day for their career. We've seen these women on TV. I'm not going to name them, but I'm sure you can think of some women who are liars. I wish I could say that anytime a woman says, somebody raped her, somebody did something to her, that, that she's telling the truth. But I just know that that's not the truth. So I could not believe, these women coming out years later saying, oh, he did something to me. I was like, Bill Cosby? Are you kidding me? Bill Cosby? America's dad? The guy who played Heathcliff Huxtable, the guy who does stand-up comedy about how much he loves his wife and his kids and he's a good dad. Like, that guy? Like, to me, accusing Bill Cosby of doing that stuff is like, it's like accusing Jimmy Stewart of raping you. Somebody comes out and says, back in 1945, Jimmy Stewart sexually assaulted me. It's like, well, first of all, why did you wait so long to say something? Secondly, Jimmy Stewart? Really? That's the guy you want to accuse? Like, that, if it happened, that's, you're talking about overturning the image that people have of this man as being like a Boy Scout, you know. And in Jimmy Stewart's case, I think he literally was a Boy Scout. But it's just a really, really hard pill to swallow, you know. Just totally overturning the reputation that we had of this man. And it also, for me, I think because I used to watch Law and Order SVU, does that make me a legal expert? Absolutely not. What it made me was very skeptical, because you would see these stories, and those shows, again, it's fictional, but they're based on things that actually happened. You would see these stories of like women accusing men of sexually assaulting them, and then you would find out at the end that they had lied, that they had faked these bruises and all this stuff and that they were doing it so that they could scam people and get money out of them. And in the process, they were ruining these guys' lives. They were going to prison. They were getting beat up in prison. And I was just like, yeah. You know, most of this show, they had me feeling sorry for this girl, and then come to find out at the very end that she wasn't even raped. And so I just took that skepticism into the real world. And I'm like, look, I want to believe all women, but I know some of these people are not telling the truth. And so, especially when it comes to celebrities, I'm like, what do you have to get out of this? Why would someone say this? And there are times when people will try to get money from celebrities. They know that they're wealthy, you know, and people are like, oh, I can't, you know, they can get their 15 minutes of fame. And you know, well, they could also be trying to get money. They could be trying to sell a story. I was just it's like, I want to believe, you know, the trust but verify. I want to believe these women because I am a woman. I don't want to doubt some woman, you know, who's saying that they were, you know, assaulted. I don't want to do that. But you're accusing a man that is, I don't want to say one of my heroes, but he's somebody that I greatly respect. And you're accusing him of, you know, something so horrible. And people were like, but you don't believe there's like 5 women, there's like 10 women, there's like 15 women. And like the number just kept growing and growing. And I was like, I don't care how many women there are. They could know each other. They could be in on it together. But at some point in time, it's like, okay, there's 30, there's 40. I mean, I think finally, you know, there's 60 that we know of. It's like 60 women have come forward. Do they all know each other? So what started to change for me was, so I have this view in my mind of Bill Cosby as this family man, America's dad, and certain things started to come out that chipped away at that image that I had of him, that made me rethink and say, you know what, I think he did this. So one, there was, you know, the comedian, I forget who the comedian was, you know, coming out and saying, you know, Bill Cosby used to make jokes about giving, you know, women drugs to have sex with them. So I go look this up, and I did this today, not, you know, years ago when this was first in the news. But I go look this up. I'm like, was he really, you know, talking about drugging women, you know, to have sex with them? So I may show this, not show, but I may play this clip of this, you know, stand-up comedy routine he did decades ago, where he was talking about giving women Spanish fly, which, I mean, it's not like Quaaludes. It's like an aphrodisiac. It's just to make people horny. It's not really the same as like drugging someone so that you can sleep with them while they're unconscious and remove their consent. But it shows kind of a pattern that he's, you know, joking about this, you know, giving women, you know, any type of substance to alter their willingness to sleep with him. And that he would joke about that, you know, it's not definitive, but it doesn't look good given the things that he's been accused of. So there's him being, you know, joking about drugging women. Then there was his own deposition where he admitted to, you know, getting Quaaludes so that he could give them to women that he wanted to have sex with. That doesn't look good. He admitted that himself, that he did that. That does not look good. When you have women accusing you of drugging them, and you are admitting in your own deposition that you got drugs to give to these women, it's not good. And then, there was the ever increasing number of women. And when he was being accused of, sexually assaulting these women, drugging them, and, raping them, his response was, and this really had an impact on me. Not that I was never alone with these women. I never slept with them. This is, this never happened. You know what his response was? Those were consensual relationships. Those were consensual encounters. And I'm like, whoa, America's dad. So you're saying you had 60 extramarital sexual encounters? Like with 60 different women? I'm like, okay, so now this image that I had in my mind of who Bill Cosby was it's definitely changing. Bill Cosby went from being, in my mind, sort of like a goody-goody who's trying to, encourage the black community to do better and now you're having 60 extramarital affairs? And I'm not saying that these were affairs, but that was his defense. Oh no, I didn't rape these women. I didn't rape 60 women. I had 60 affairs. I'm like, ew. I mean, that's... Even if that was the worst thing he had done, 60? Who has 60 affairs? Like, that's your defense? I didn't rape them. I had affairs. 60? That's... You're not who I thought you were anymore now. It's not looking good. And then on top of that, there was finding out that Bill Cosby was good friends with Hugh Hefner and that he used to hang out at the Playboy Mansion. And I'm like, woo! Again, that is not in line with the air quotes America's dad image that we had of him. It's really falling apart. So now we have a man who's making jokes about giving women aphrodisiacs, drugs to make them want to have sex with him. He's friends with Hugh Hefner, hanging out at the Playboy Mansion. He's saying he's having 60 extramarital affairs that we know of. And then there's, the deposition where he's admitting about the Quaaludes. And then there was just the way that he was responding to questions. At first he was like, I'm, not responding at all. And then he's kind of taking the, these accusations are beneath me. I'm not going to lower myself to address this. He was speaking all of this like legalese and like, I'm not going to dignify this with a response. And I'm just like, if you are an innocent man, a decent man who's lived your life with dignity and respect, and you are being accused of raping 60 women, is that how you're going to respond? Like that nonchalantly, like that chill, like, oh, I'm not going to dignify that with a response. If someone accused me of sexually assaulting 60 people, I'm not going to just nonchalantly be like, oh, I'm not going to dignify that with a response. That's just, beneath me. I would be like adamant. I would be like, oh no, they did not. That is not something that I would do. That is outside of my character. Like you would hear passion. You would hear like me pleading my case. He was just, you could tell. For me, I feel like I could tell when I put all of that stuff together. I was like, one, this is not who I thought he was. He's not Heathcliff Huxtable. He is, he's more like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He may have done good things for the black community. I don't want to discount that. But he also went around raping women, drugging them, and having sex with them without their consent. And that's a problem. And it was really hard for me to process that. But, it's been years now. And, I've just taken the lesson from that if you don't know people in person, not just seeing them on TV since you were a little kid, growing up watching them. But if you don't know them in person, you do not know these people. So Bill Cosby, he finally got convicted. He finally went to prison. He was supposed to stay there for 3 to 10 years, and people said that the man's going to die in prison. And now today, out of the blue, he's out. He's out. And so the thing that's not really clear to me in all of this is, officially, how long would he have actually stayed in prison? If his sentence was 3 to 10 years and he's already been in there 2, I mean, were they going to let him out anyway in several months? Or was he really going to stay the 10 years? But I read in some article, I have all of these articles pulled up, so I doubt that I'm going to be able to find this quote. But I read in one of these articles where they were saying he would rather have spent the full 10 years in prison than to have to apologize or, admit any wrongdoing. Anyway, so one of the major issues that I have with this whole Bill Cosby thing, aside from the fact that he just, ruined everybody's childhood, ruined the legacy of the show that he was on, that people loved so much. And now we have a really complicated relationship with the Cosby Show. The issue that I have is that he doesn't show any remorse. There's 60 women that have accused him of rape, and he shows no remorse. And I want to just read this this statement that he put out. Bill Cosby's been in prison, and he's still been communicating with the world. He's still been tweeting. But he put out something today. He put out a few statements today. Where is it? I'm looking at Twitter and I want to see. I'm going to put it up so you can see it. Where he's trying to say, this is something that this isn't just a victory for him, but it's like a victory for all Black people. What does he say? Well, here, one thing he says, I've never changed my stance nor my story. I've always maintained my innocence. Thank you to all my fans, supporters, and friends who stood by me through this ordeal. Special thanks to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court for upholding the rule of law. Okay. And I think I'm going to play this clip that was on the news today where they go over the statement that he said, and then I'll come back after that.
Ann Thompson, I understand you have a statement from Bill Cosby. What's he saying?
We do, Jeff. This comes from his spokesperson, Andrew Wyatt, and he says, we want to thank the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. This is what we have been fighting for, and this is justice and justice for Black America. This is justice. This is the justice Mr. Cosby has been fighting for. They saw the light. He waived his Fifth Amendment right and settled out of court. He was given a deal, and he had immunity. He should have never been charged. I want to thank all my attorneys. That's the statement.
Kristen, I'm going to come to you for reaction to that, especially the line that this is somehow justice for, quote, Black America, as it apparently was suggested.
Yeah, so after all the damage that this man has done to the Black community, and just going around being a rapist, going around drugging women and having sex with them without their consent, and then after getting away with doing this for decades while hiding behind this facade of, Heathcliff Huxtable and being America's dad, after he finally got convicted and went to prison, for his conviction to be overturned and for him to be released, and then for him to make a statement saying this is justice for Black people, it's so infuriating and it's so disgusting to me that this man who went from being someone that I really respected and looked up to in the Black community as like an example. I'm like, I wish we had more men in our community like this man. He's a family man, talking about how much he loves his wife, how much he loves his kids. I wish we had more men like this. And then to find out, at the very least, that the man is a serial adulterer. And when I say serial adulterer, I don't mean, he had 3 affairs. I mean, the man is saying, I had 60 affairs. I didn't rape those women. I just had 60 affairs. Oh, okay. So you're trash. So you are trash. Because I don't know any other man that had friggin' 60 affairs. So you are trash. But you drugged those women. You raped them. 60. And then when you get out of prison, you want to try to like make this like a Black Lives Matter thing. You want to try to put yourself in the shoes of people who have been falsely accused. You know, that's not you. And I have a serious I'm trying not to sound so angry, because in my last two videos, or the one I did about, IKEA did nothing wrong, I was livid. I was so angry. And I'm trying to like be calm and not be as angry as I am. But this situation, the IKEA thing, that's minor, okay? This we're talking about a man who was raping people and got out of prison early on a technicality. They're not saying that he didn't do it. They're not saying he's innocent. They're just saying, oh, well, he thought that he had a deal that, he could basically tell, people that he had, given this woman quaaludes and had sex with her and done these things to her, but that he wouldn't get in trouble for it because, this was just for the civil case. I'm not going to be charged later criminally for admitting that I did this. And then he got charged criminally later. And they're like, no. He shouldn't have been charged. He needs to get out of prison on a technicality. Well, where was this argument during the trial? If they really were going to go with this argument, why didn't they try to say we shouldn't even have a trial? Why pull this move, years later? It's ridiculous. Bill Cosby should spend, as much as I loved this man, Bill Cosby needed to spend the rest of his life in prison. He needed to die in prison for this. He got away with this for decades. It didn't impact his career. He needed to spend the rest of his life finally paying for his wrongdoings. And for him to get out and then try to act like he was some wronged Black man who was falsely accused, and he's just continuing the legacy of Black men who have been wronged, and he shouldn't have been in prison, and oh, my life is so terrible, and now I'm a free Black man just like all those other Black men who it was like, dude, you're not a martyr. You're a rapist who got caught finally and you went to prison for it. Don't try to act like don't no. The downfall of this man, the lack of remorse. How do you rape 60 women and you have no remorse? Even if it was just affairs, how do you have 60 freaking affairs and no remorse? Like, what is the deal with this man? What is the deal? I just like, it was bad enough when we were all grappling with, oh wow, Bill Cosby is not who we thought he was. He's going to prison. Whoever would think that he's going to prison? I never would think to see a day when Bill Cosby would be going to prison. But to see him like not even be brought to a point of repentance, like, yeah, I did this and I finally got caught and I'm so sorry. No, just they were saying he wasn't even during the trial, he wasn't really taking it seriously. He was smirking. He's such a disappointment as a human being. He really is. As a man who I considered like a pillar of the Black community, the African American community, he's such a disappointment. And it's heartbreaking. It really truly is. And I'm really having a hard time with that. And I'd already processed this, because this happened years ago. We were already talking about this in 2014, 2015. I have processed my feelings on this. But today, getting this news that he's out and he's saying, oh, this is a victory for Black people. Dude, it's not. No, we don't need Black rapists roaming the streets of America. We don't need that. That's not a victory for us. There were white women that were raped. There were Black women that were raped. It's not a victory for any of those women that you're on the street, that you're out on the streets. That's not a victory. That's, when wealthy celebrities don't get penalized the same way the rest of us do, that is not a victory for Black people. That's not a victory for any group of people. And I am not going to celebrate Bill Cosby being released from prison early, like this is a victory for black people. It's not. It's not. If you actually are guilty of those crimes, you actually need to spend that time in prison. You really do. And I don't know. I'm just really frustrated. He really is a disappointment, and he went from being this man that was such a great example of a decent human being to he's just being like trash. He really is. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the man that we're dealing with. He is just a very trashy person. And what's really baffling is that he's an old trashy person. And I will never forget this clip of him. I downloaded it. I may play it. I may play it in the video. I may or may not, because it might change the whole tone of my video. My point is not to really promote Bill Cosby's comedy. But I will never forget. I used to own a copy of this stand-up routine he did called Bill Cosby Himself, where he talks about his kids having brain damage, and he talks about his wife going in labor and the time he went to the dentist, and then he hears the dentist make a mistake. Like that one, I used to watch that all the time. And he talks about how when he grew up, his parents were really harsh and really mean, and then once he had kids, they became completely different people. They're giving the kids money, they're kissing the kids all over the place, kissing them all the time. And he said his kids, they love their grandmother. And he said to them, that is not the woman that I grew up with. You're looking at an old person now who's trying to get into heaven. I always thought that was so funny. And now I'm looking at Bill Cosby and I'm like, dude, you are in your 80s. You have spent decades hanging out with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion. You have spent decades drugging women and raping them and showing no remorse for it. And you in your 80s now. I don't know how long Bill Cosby is going to live. I don't know. He could live to be 115. But he is an old man now. And he needs to think about trying to go to heaven. He needs to think about that. And I know that comment may rub people the wrong way. But, we're going to have to give an account for the way we lived our lives. We are all going to meet our maker at some point. And there are people in this life who do not get the justice that they should get. There are people who they rape, they kill, they kidnap people, they do all of these horrible things, and they die and they think, I never really had to really pay for what I did, or I did pay, but not the full extent. And I'm going to have to say, for a man who spent decades raping 60 women, I don't think 2 years in prison, I don't really think 2 years in prison is enough. I wouldn't say that he paid his debt to society. I think there was the first accusation that I heard of was the one that dated back to 1969. So you've been doing this since 1969, and now you're still not sorry about it, and now you're trying to act like, I'm a falsely accused black man and you guys should celebrate me. The audacity of this man, this elderly man who you don't know, he could live to be 90, he could live to be 100. We don't know how long Bill Cosby is going to be with us, but this man clearly has no fear of God. He has no fear, because if I was in my 80s, I would be trying to get my house in order. I would be trying to right the wrongs and make amends. I would be trying to get my stuff together. I would not be acting arrogant and ignorant, like a freaking victim when you are the one who raped 60 women. I still can't believe we're talking about Bill Cosby this way. Like, it's just, who would have thought, It's just so frustrating. And I just felt like I needed to say that. sometimes I write notes and I kind of follow along with my notes. And this time I'm just kind of like freestyling this. It's just so hurtful. And I'm just really sad that this is the way that this whole thing went down. But again, the takeaway lesson, if you do not know someone in person, you don't know them, even if it's a celebrity you really like. And I really liked Bill Cosby, but I didn't know him in person, you know? And, you know, people are really concerned that this is going to cause a problem for other women who have been sexually assaulted or abused and make them afraid of coming forward, you know? So how does that benefit the Black community? Not that everything is about the Black community, just America or the world in general. How does this benefit the world? How does this benefit America? How does this benefit any level of community that, you know, it took decades for this case to finally happen, for him to be convicted, and then he gets let out early, and not only let out early, like on probation or something, but the conviction being overturned on a technicality, you know? So now I just, it's just really frustrating. And then you have, you know, you have these women, and I don't, you know what? I won't call them these women. I won't group these two women together. You know, there's the curious case of Camille Cosby. And then there's Phylicia Rashad. I'm not going to put these two women in the same category. Because the difference is Camille Cosby lives with Bill Cosby. And I think she knows what this man is. She knows who this man is. I don't know how you don't know. And like I said, at the very least, this is a man who admitted that he had 60 consensual affairs. And you're staying with this man? Like, I feel like the older Black people, you know, in the community, we're supposed to have respect for these people. So there's a part of me that wants to like revere Camille Cosby as like, oh my gosh, this is Bill Cosby's wife and I should have respect for her. I really don't have a lot of respect for this woman. I really don't. This woman should have divorced Bill Cosby and taken all of his money, like all of it. Cheated on her with 60. I mean, it's not cheating, but going by his lame excuse, his lame defense. Cheating on you with 60 women, that's your defense, and she's locking arms with him, smiling her big smile. Like, what is your problem, lady? Divorce this man. Your marriage has been a joke. Your marriage has been a shame. You don't even have a marriage, honestly. What do you have? You've given your whole life to this man, supported him. Divorce his behind, take his money, and live your life with dignity. I don't understand this couple. This couple is just so toxic. I don't want to see them. I'm not celebrating them. I'm not supporting them. This couple needs to go away. I don't want to hear about them anymore. I don't want to see Camille Cosby's smiling face. I don't want to see either of them. They're a weird, toxic couple, and I feel like she knows. There's no way she doesn't know what her husband is. There's just no way. There's no way. He admitted it on TV. He admitted it. You know, he admitted to giving women quaaludes to have sex with him in deposition. So don't tell me you don't know that your husband did this stuff. Don't tell me you don't know. I'm so frustrated with the two of them. But then there's Phylicia Rashad. Phylicia Rashad, you know, releasing her statement saying, you know, that, you know, justice has been done. And I want to read her statement. I don't want to like, try to summarize it because I know I'm going to mess it up. So let me find this statement of hers and then I can read it. And she's coming under hot water for that statement. So Phylicia Rashad came, you know, did a tweet today saying, in all caps, finally, a terrible wrong is being righted. A miscarriage of justice is corrected. Oh my goodness. I do not have the venom that I have for Bill Cosby. I do not have that for Phylicia Rashad. I love Phylicia Rashad. I absolutely love this woman. I have loved this woman since the 80s, since she was on the Cosby Show. And it's pretty much like a universal thing. Black women love Phylicia Rashad. She is gorgeous. She's classy. We love this woman. Like the way people love Cicely Tyson, the way people loved her. Like Phylicia Rashad is just like, we just love her. And I have a lot of respect for her. So I'm not about to drag her. But I am going to say this. As someone who has been a fan of Phylicia Rashad's, since I was a kid and I look up to her, I'm going to say respectfully, Phylicia Rashad, you got this one wrong. I feel that her proximity and like her decades-long friendship with Bill Cosby has like blinded her to the facts of the situation. I think, look, if I was friends with a man for decades or any period of time, and I thought I knew his character, and then I hear all of these accusations coming out, I wouldn't want to believe that stuff either. I wouldn't want to believe that my friend was a rapist. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't want to believe that. Especially if I never saw any of that behavior. Especially if they always treated me with respect or treated, the other cast members that I was working with respect. And I didn't see anything that would be like, that would even be like a hint of that type of behavior. I would defend him too. I would be like, you guys you have the wrong guy. Like, this is not who he is. So I get her wanting to defend him, but she needs to look at the facts. She needs to have the same moment that I did where she goes through all of these different points. He did it. He's not Mr. Innocent. He's not. And I get that. I feel like her friendship is blinding her to that. And I feel like that's what we're seeing in this tweet, And I know that she's coming under a lot of hot water for it. And I get it. People are mad. Like, come on, Phylicia Rashad. But that's our friend. And she worked with him for years. He helped her career. And I wouldn't want to believe it. But even I, as somebody who grew up as a child watching Bill Cosby, even I had to have my moment where I was like, okay, there's way too much evidence here. There's way too much smoke here. When there's this much smoke, this is not a man who was falsely accused. What happened today was not justice. What happened today was not justice. And so I say respectfully to Phylicia Rashad, ma'am, you got this one wrong. You got this one wrong. You need to face the facts, face the music. Bill Cosby is not the man you thought he was. He is not. As I said before, he is, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He is, he has a nice side. The giving money to people so they can go to college, encouraging people to go to college. Yeah, but I mean, we can't ignore the fact that he's also raping young women, raping college-age women, drugging them and taking advantage of them. So you got this one wrong. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna give you the same venom that I gave Bill Cosby, but sometimes there are people in our lives who are not who we thought they were. And this is one of those times, so it is time to take the rosy colored filters off and accept Bill Cosby for who he is. Bill Cosby is a man who hung out with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion. He is a man who has been accused by 60 women of sexual assault, and his defense was, I didn't rape them. I had affairs with 60 of them. You're gonna be friends with a man that's having 60 affairs? Like, the dude's, I'm sorry, but he's trash. Until he decides to, in some way, make amends, he's trash. He's trash. So, yeah, she got this one wrong. I'm not gonna flame her for it. I'm not gonna torch her for it. I'm still gonna keep loving Phylicia Rashad unless something comes out and it turns out she did something crazy. But, I'm not gonna hate on her for I'm not going to hit on her for that. I'll be mad at the wife because I think the wife absolutely knows. But I'm not going to be mad at Phylicia Rashad. I'm not going to be mad at her. I like her too much. Oh, and then I want to read this statement by one of his attorneys. I'm pulling this from a CNN article that came out today. It says, Brian Perry, one of Cosby's attorneys, addressed the media Wednesday afternoon alongside the comedian saying, The system has to be fair, and fortunately the Supreme Court agreed with us. We've said from day one, we just didn't think he was treated fairly, and that the system has to be fair, and fortunately the Supreme Court agreed with us, Perry said. He's happy, his wife is happy. The system only works if it's fair to all sides. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. The system has to be fair. You rape 60 women and you spend 2 years, and some change in prison. That's fair. Yeah, the system's being fair to everyone. It's a big win for Black people today. Woo! We got a rapist roaming the streets. Let's celebrate. I'm not here for Bill Cosby. He's still canceled. I don't care that he's out on a technicality. These articles and all of these legal analysts are clear to say that just because he's out doesn't mean he's innocent. So let's not get that narrative going that, oh, he's innocent. No, he's not innocent. He's out on a technicality. So there is a convicted, the conviction was overturned, but a man who was found guilty. And the facts of that case have not been disputed. They're still what they are. That man is out walking around now. Maybe he doesn't have any more in him because he's like in his 80s, so maybe nobody will be at risk, but I'll be curious to see if he's still claiming that he's blind or partially blind or something like that, or if that was just an act for the whole have compassion on me, I'm an old man and I'm going to prison. Just like, okay, I won't. I've been told that I'm insensitive bringing up Harvey Weinstein with his his walker. Now he's an invalid. These people just want us to have compassion on them when they're being held accountable for their decades of raping and philandering, and now we should have. Look, I'm not here for it, but I will say this. Bill Cosby, you old. And you're trifling. And it's time for you to stop being trifling. It's time for you to admit that you did this stuff. It's time for you to get your house in order. Because none of us know how long we have on this earth. Are we going to live to be 110? Are we going to live to be 90? We don't know. We don't know how long it is. And don't anybody misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not freaking threatening the man. Don't even go there. I'm just saying we do not know when our last breath will be, and we are going to have to give an account. So the court system may have let you go free today, Mr. Cosby, but one day God is going to come knocking, and you're going to have to give an account for those 60 women and any other women who we don't know about. So, food for thought. Food for thought. I have never forgotten about you saying that your mother is an old woman who is trying to get into heaven now. I know you meant that as a joke, but you are now an old man, and you need to get your house in order. Yeah, that's all I have to say. If I do another video on this later, so be it. But yeah, I'm mad. And I reject the ridiculous idea that this rapist walking freely is a victory for the Black community. No. Black rapists walking the street is not a victory for the Black community. So let's not peddle that lie, Mr. Cosby. Let's not peddle that lie.